G'day, mother lovers.
I was surfing the Internet the other day just to see what would come up searching for my brand name, and I came across this Reddit post. Anyone else tired of the YouTube build videos where they have a huge shop full of expensive tools? I thought, what? So me and a few other YouTube faces had something to say about it. So let's get balls deep. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for the boys. But for the best part, most of the comments were pretty positive. I think it strung more of a chord with me because of the current climate of things, with so much divide and fighting amongst us all. Woodworking is woodworking. DIYers, actually you can work your wood any way you like. You can go cheap, you can go expensive, you can use your left hand if you fancy it. But there are some people who think there are subdivisions of woodworkers, just like what's going on around the world. They even act like it's war or a football match. Pretty pathetic and childish. I hear the word DIY thrown around a lot. Such a broad word that could mean anything. What it does mean is doing it yourself. Period. Choking the chicken is doing it yourself. How many different terms are there for that, Jim? Means the same thing though, doesn't it? And then there are the peeps that pirouette around YouTube, telling YouTubers what they should do, how they should do it, like they're the king dingaling. Not saying I'm the king dingaling or any other YouTubers are the king dingaling, but I don't walk up to a mechanic, stand there and tell him what he's doing wrong while he's fixing my car. You probably don't either. Why do you think it's alright to do it on YouTube? I suppose a good example would be sharpening. That's a contentious issue at the best of times. Everybody's got their own view on that. Generally speaking, though, I believe a lot of people just go, well, that's his way of doing it. Let him go on with it. If it works for them, it works for them. But there are a small minority of the almost narcissistic people, I think is the best way to put it, that want to control you and get you to conform to what they believe is the best thing to do, and you should do the same because that's what works for them. I keep saying this on so many videos that making stuff out of wood, you will find it's what works for you. You can try half a dozen things and they won't work out for you. And then you just find that one thing and think, no, that makes sense. I'm going to do it that way. For me, one of the biggest things I find I do that's different from everyone is when I'm planing on the planer. Everyone says you should plane the board with the frown down, so you're cutting off the ends and slowly you get down to a flat board. I don't do it like that. I flip the board so the frown is up and I put my hand in the middle. And then I go over it once, I've got a flat spot, and that flat spot then makes it safe to cut, and I keep going backwards and forwards doing it that way, which most people don't do. It's bad enough some of you think we should work for free, let alone put up with some of the we have to listen to. In the sense of trades, I guess you could say there are divisions of woodworking, but we are talking out there in the humdrum of things, like a bench joiner, a carpenter, maker, first fix, second fix. But on YouTube, a lot of people on YouTube are trying to subsidise what they can't make from being good with their hands and making furniture. Woodworking being the key word here. Carpentry and joinery, what do you think they mean? What terms do you use in your YouTube searches? Woodworker? Carpentry? Some of you probably don't know the difference, and I've experienced a lot on pretty much a daily basis. If I say I make furniture, for instance, they've usually just before said, oh, so you're a carpenter? No, I make furniture. I wonder if some people think that just because it involves you working with wood. But I'm no carpenter. I definitely couldn't make a roof. Well, I'm scared of heights for it, for one thing, but I wouldn't know where to begin. So why such a hard-on for the word DIY? Why do we hear so many people say, this isn't DIY? I get a lot of comments like that. I think some people think DIYing is Black & Decker, the wife's eyeliner pencil by candlelight, and a lump of wood as a sanding block. If we say DIY, that's how we should be too.
So is YouTube really just about DIY? Well, no, it's not. I think it is what you need it to be. So the definition of I don't even want to get into that argument. I think as people have evolved, video has evolved, what we're interested in, what we want to spend our time doing, we'll pick the people that we want to watch. The step-by-step guide on how to do something, that may not be relevant anymore in a woodworking for YouTube. I think you just want to inspire people, get people moving, have a bit of fun, bit of education along the way, and just do you.
DIYers saying we're not allowed to use decent tools and you must not make anything high-end. Well, that's what you're saying when you say to us makers, us YouTubers, that this isn't DIY, isn't it? I seldom get bad comments in my comment section, but there are always these types of people. You can almost picture them in your head, typing away, thinking how clever they are. When they hit that send comment button, they're really proud of themselves. Deep down, though, it boils really down to one thing, doesn't it? Jealousy. jealous of the tools and jealous of the fact we have the minerals to go out there and make videos on this, edit the videos, get them out there, put ourselves out in the public domain. It's not easy to do, you know. I'll tell you something, it's f***ing weird talking to an inanimate object such as a camera on your own. I'd really like to see these armchair Muppets go out there, video their skills, edit it, get the sound right, stick it up on YouTube. In fact, I think it should be mandatory that you have to get 1,000 subscribers before you're allowed to comment on YouTube. You're probably not going to be so quick to disrespect a creator then, are you? I mean, let's face it, you have no idea what goes into this. You can hear it being said now, you put yourself out in the public eye, you should expect it. Well, let's put it differently. You wouldn't walk up to someone that you're paying money to do a job for you and do that to them, would you? I did, however, chuckle at this comment. If someone made a video where they made a chair using nothing but toothpicks, people would complain about how shiny the rock was, and that's unfair to all the people with a dull rock. DIYers, woodworkers, beginners, experts, tool salesman, salesperson, sorry, let's be politically correct as possible, gimp. Where's the line? Should there be a line? The way it reads to me, there are DIYers and there's professionals. I don't agree with that. There are people that make stuff out of wood. DIYers can mean anything. Mean you've plumbed in your own bathroom. Mean you've tiled your own bathroom. I wonder why some of you talk like there's some sort of line. Why do some think we should work by candlelight and use flint? I've got friends that are DIYers, weekend warriors, who've got a bigger workshop than I have. And I've got fantastic expensive tools.
Now, I'm a bit of a DIY and I don't really dabble too much in woodwork or fine carpentry, at the moment at least. And to be honest with you, I never knew that a domino even existed until recently. And I honestly can't understand what the fuss is about why people have such a brain if someone's using a domino, because as far as I'm concerned, you need to be more solution focused, and you don't think, right, someone's using that tool, that means that I can't do it. You need to think, how can I do that? There's always different ways of looking at things.
Nonetheless, in this Reddit post, I went down the rabbit hole to see what people had to say in the comment section. The first one I came to was, unfortunately, I feel his channel has suffered since he got a dedicated workshop studio, actually, I think they said. I think this is sad. That maker hasn't changed in any way. He's got more space. He's going to make the same sorts of things. He's probably going to make better things as he's got more space. The next comment, and everyone's favourite. Easy way to join two boards, and then proceeds to pull out a domino and a full-size jointer. Just for the record, though, you don't need a domino to join two boards. You don't need anything apart from glue to join two boards. I don't even know why people call a planer a jointer, because it joins all. It doesn't join anything. Glue joins the two pieces of wood together. Domino is only pulled out to literally make alignment easier and quicker. It stops the boards from shifting on their sides too. I especially want to use the domino for joining boards when I've picked that grain that it flows, lines up. The dominoes will do that for me. Biscuits, not so much. They've got too much play. I don't feel that I need to tell my subscribers when I'm doing something that you can also do it this way, or pull out another tool, or have to show you another way of doing it. I don't understand where these people come from thinking that that's what we should do. YouTube is so oversaturated with makers and woodworkers that I think the only thing really left is the quality of content. Is it entertaining? Does it make you laugh? And okay, what's their style of making stuff? What does this person do differently to the other person? You know, there's always more than one way to skin a cat. I have a slight advantage over a lot of makers. I have an artistic side to me, which a lot of YouTubers don't have a creative bone in their body. They can glue and screw something together, most of them. Being artistic isn't really something you can learn or be taught either. And I like to try and encourage people to get out of their comfort zone and try and be more creative. I couldn't be bothered to count how many times the word domino came up in this thread, but it made me reminisce of a meme I once saw. And we could go on, and there's the people that go, hey, that's cheating. He shows how to build a work table for $200 using $5,000 worth of tools.
Okay, does the tool make a woodworker? Yes and no. After 8 years, I'm very much of the opinion that better tools very much help me to get the job done better. A big cast iron table saw, comparing a job site table saw to this big cast iron table saw, they both get the job done, but what I'm finding now is accuracy is much better. This thing does everything that DeWalt could do, it just does it a little bit better for me. The other thing to remember is, just because you see a YouTuber who has a shed full of cool tools or expensive tools, it doesn't mean that you cannot do it or you cannot get started with what you have. That's what I've done, and that's what I still do. I don't have all the fancy stuff, but what I actually enjoy is figuring out ways to do things with what I've got. So like most people, I started out with pretty much what I had. I had a few corded power tools from about 20 years prior when I used to do a few jobs around the house. Electric plane, a router, and a belt sander. I quickly blew those up. The other cheap tools I started with were the big box branded battery tools. So like literally $50 a tool. Buy into that ecosystem. If they break, you take them back. They're on a 5-year warranty. You get a new one, you flog it to death, and you go again. That is a great way to not spend a heap of money and just get started, to see if you actually like doing this stuff out here. Now, I used those tools for the first couple of years. I literally did flog them to death. They definitely had limitations, more so with power. Now, I didn't really realize this until I upgraded to a DeWalt system. Your DeWalt, Makita, Milwaukee, doesn't matter what you get. Eventually, you'll probably want a little bit more herbs and spices than the really cheap stuff. Keep going with what you got until you really need to replace. That would be my advice. I think the big thing is when you're choosing a brand, you don't need to be on a team. All I did was find an ecosystem that had probably the best deals at the time. Like, it was more economical for me to jump into the yellow stuff. I now have a really good selection of stuff. Half of the fun along the way was always coming up with ways to do things, and then ways to do things better, and then refine things until you get a really good product. Learn as you go with what you've got. When tools improve and get better, the entire process or the entire product is only going to end up better in the end anyway. I guess what I'm saying is don't be discouraged if you don't have the tools. But when you are watching, there is only so many things you can do with a hammer and a saw. I'm yet to find this channel where you go and they build it with just a hammer and a saw. Like when I built a complete kitchen island bed and people commented, "That's great." This is on Facebook. I'd like to see you do that with a hammer and a saw. That's stupid. Could you do it with just a hammer and a saw? No, probably not. Because you need way more tools and things to get a massive job done.
Do I need high-end tools to get things done? Not in a lot of cases, but my current router cost 5 times what my first one did, which is great because it doesn't feel like it's going to fly across the room. I started with the cheapest one on Amazon. It's the Katsu router, which you've probably heard of. I've since added a plunge base to it, so even though it's a trim router, you can use it for other things. I killed my first one when I decided to flatten a oak slab with it. That wasn't a good idea. But since then, I've upgraded to a Bosch router. This one, which I now use mostly for flattening slabs, because down here I have a router table with a Triton router in, which mostly lives there now. Yeah, and like many people when I started, I mostly had a cheap jigsaw. The jigsaw I had was from installing floorboarding. Soon you realise that's not going to cut it really. And I got a bandsaw, which is hidden at the moment, and that just makes all the difference. It's faster, it's smoother, you get much better cuts, and even, again, with quite a cheap store brand one like this, once you put a decent blade in it, it's going to cut really well.
You got to remember, if you're starting somewhere, that means you're going somewhere. That means you can upgrade your tools as you go along. And whereas I started off with a Titan circular saw, within the last couple of years I've got myself a DeWalt plunge saw. So that's a decent bit of kit. It's second hand, but it's cheaper and it's more accessible. So you don't have to get these brand new fan-dabby-dozy tools and everything. To be honest with you, when I was looking at it, I was checking out Festool ones as well, but the DeWalt was fine. It was good enough for what I needed to do at the time. I think an important thing to remember is your capabilities are not limited by your tools. It's limited by your skill, and if you outskill your tools, that's the time to upgrade. And if you're seeing someone else do something else on YouTube and they've got, I don't know, say Robin Clevitt using a load of Hilti tools, I don't automatically think, no, I can't do that, I'm just not going to do it. One thing you need to remember is you can't let anyone tell you that you can't do something, and that includes yourself. If you tell yourself that you can't do something because you haven't got a particular tool, that's a self-limiting belief, and you need to believe in yourself, have some confidence that you can actually achieve these things as well, even if that means going about it a different way, whether it means cheaper tools or second hand. You see, what you got to remember is everyone cuts their teeth at the bottom. I cut my teeth at the bottom. I still consider myself at the bottom. I started off in my DIY venture 10 years ago, not even that, and I done a double dormer loft conversion, hip to gable, and a rear extension, full refurb of the house. And the tools that I bought straight away, Ryobi, just because I like green. I wasn't too fussed about an expensive brand or anything. It done what it needed to at the time. I done quite well out of it, and till today I still use my Ryobi tools. I've not upgraded them. It doesn't really matter, I can still do the work. A bad craftsman blames their tools.
People say woodworking is all about problem solving, and it truly is, but in my opinion, problem solving doesn't just apply to the project itself, but also to the tools that he used. So for example, when I was watching YouTube back then, if I saw someone do something using a tool that I didn't have, it would inspire me because I would think about how I could achieve the same result with the tools that I had. And there was always a way, a solution to get the same job done. That solution would often take longer and it might not be as neat and tidy, but it didn't matter because I enjoyed the process of problem solving and getting a sense of achievement. Anyway, I built my first workshop in 2015, so I had a dry place to work, and that was the first video on my YouTube channel, I think, and 9 years later, here I am working in what is basically my dream workshop, and I've built up and upgraded my collection of machines over time, and I feel incredibly lucky to have everything I need. I've been woodworking for as long as I can remember, but around 12 years ago I started watching people like John Heiss on YouTube that made me want to take the hobby more seriously. So I started a Tumblr page online documenting my projects, which is actually still online, embarrassingly enough. And I was just making rustic furniture projects mainly. Back then it didn't really matter to me if things were perfectly square or even cut to the right length sometimes. I just enjoyed the process of making things. And I wanted to make videos back then, but I just didn't have the confidence. I didn't have a workshop. Everything I made was built in my kitchen or in the garden if the weather was okay. Black & Decker workbench. Most of my tools were the cheapest things from Argos. Back then you could pick up a Draper plunge router for £25. I think I paid the same for my first belt sander. I think the brand was Challenge. I had a Silverline planer. I had a pair of dark blue Ryobi drills, which I think were given to me. I wanted a table saw because I knew it would open up so many more options for my woodworking. So I built the most sketchy looking thing using an Einhell circular saw upside down. And looking back on it now, I definitely wouldn't recommend that anyone does anything like that because it was unsafe and my technique back then was terrible too. But still, I made lots of projects with that thing. When people post comments complaining that the tools I'm using are unattainable or unrelatable, I feel bad for those people, not because they don't have the tools that I have, but because I don't think they have the right attitude. I just can't see how you're ever going to achieve anything in woodworking because problem solving is such a big part of it. The thing with this whole content creation thing is that companies want to give you stuff because they get exposure out of it, and to be honest, a lot of the tools that I'm using now are actually way better than I really need for the type of work that I do. If I was spending my own money on tools, and if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I'm sure I'd still have a big collection of tools, probably 95% of what I have now, but they wouldn't be nearly as fancy or as high spec as the ones that I use.
Having tools definitely do make things more efficient. So early on, I pretty much knew that I wanted a table saw. I ended up getting this $50 old thing from a garage sale. I used it a couple of times, but because it was very lacking in nearly every safety feature possible, the table saw was my first major goal. So sell more stuff, get the cash, get a table saw. I started out with a little job site and I flogged that thing for about 6.5, 7 of those years. I haven't had this cabinet saw very long at all, about 6 months. 99% of the people who comment on my videos or on my work have been positive, but you still get people that just say the most random negative, or they feel the need to tell you that they're not interested in you anymore because you've got fancy tools. Like one dude specifically unsubscribed to me because I now have a CNC. Like the CNC is just one tool that I incorporate into a project somehow. My channel isn't about CNCing, but what that CNC is to me and why I want to put at least one part of a build into a project is because that CNC company is an Aussie company who reached out to me and I was not interested because I had far too much on my plate. So a few months went by back and forth and I eventually agreed that, okay, I'll give this a crack. Now, it is an Aussie company with the most amazing customer service. So I've met my obligations for videos for that CNC. I want to splash that thing all over the internet purely because of how I was treated and purely because the product is amazing. That's all I have to say about that. But to the dude unsubscribed, so long!
wrong, gay boys.
Don't get me started on CNC machines. Really don't. I really want one. Can you imagine how efficient I could be and how much more accuracy I could guarantee? I honestly think it would unlock a massive creative area where I'm not that good with the hand tools, but I could get a CNC to do it for me.
Those sad little f***s that say, I'm unsubscribing now. Let's be honest, it matters not. I mean, you're one person in billions of people out there. You're completely insignificant. So one, two, couple of subscribers saying they're going to unsubscribe because got a laser or a CNC. No narcissists are needed around here anyway. Do tools make you a better work person? No. They make you more efficient, make you work faster and achieve your goal quicker. The better the tools are, the less hair you're pulling out. Same goes for hand tools too, really. You can go and buy yourself a set of cheap chisels. You'd probably not know it and go out and buy a set of carpenter chisels. Well, you're never going to do any dovetail work with that, never any fine work. Great for smashing out a mortise or a hinge mortise, but that cheap set of chisels, you might not realise it, and you buy them. They come with really crap steel, soft steel, and then you're going to go and sharpen, then take it to the workpiece. Boom, your chisel feels blunt. It's too soft and it's rounded over your business end, and you're going to think to yourself, okay, so what is that then? Is that my sharpening skills are not up to scratch? Off you trot to find out more about sharpening. But then, having said that, I bought some very expensive hand tools in the past that I really disliked. Yeah, the handle was not the right size for my hands, or it wasn't weighty enough. The other thing with Festool tools is I don't think people realise is when you're purchasing these tools, you get 3 years free servicing. So you're a year into using that tool and it seems to be playing up, you just send it off. They pay for it all and they send it back to you fixed. When it's getting near to 3 years, obviously send it into Festool for them to give it an overhaul and you get a relatively new tool back. I've had an instance, this was a long time ago, that they sent the tool back and it had a new casing on it. It looked like brand new. I thought originally they must have sent me a brand new tool. And also, if your Festool tools are stolen on site, they will replace them. I think there's a excess on that. I don't know I can't remember what it is. So I mean, that's, you've got to factor that into the cost of Festools, but I'm still not paying 1,500 quid motor saw. And I started out with sanders that would make your hands feel like you've got pins and needles for hours and hours after you've used them. Tools that are unsafe. The only times I've had kickbacks and got hurt from them were from tools that were cheap and nasty. From things like table saw fence being able to move when it's under pressure, being used to then push the wood into the blade. Like it or not, there are levels of tools. Construction tools, mid-range tools, and top shelf tools. Of course, you've got your crap tools. The mid-range tool, which I can call the construction type tools, they're built like tanks. You can throw those around a building site all day long. The high-end tools I really wouldn't want to be taking to building site. But the difference between the mid-range and the high-end tools is the high-end tools are way more refined. Dust collection is excellent. A lot of the time you can make a cut with that and that is your finished cut. You don't need to take it to a shooting board and make sure it's perfect, which saves time. But, it's the same with life, isn't it? It's cars. You've got low-end cars, your Vauxhalls, and then you've got your supercars, and then you've got your hypercars. Same with audio equipment. Why do we have to listen to people moaning about tools or a bigger or smaller workshop? We all know some fella, don't we, that will say, I've had this Black & Decker for 40 years, it's never let me down. They've probably only done an hour's work with it. I don't know if you remember too, someone outed a company, it must be nearly 20 years ago, I won't mention their brand name. It was a salesperson that outed them saying that their budget line tools were only designed to work for 20 hours before they pack up. Another reason I'm an advocate of buy once, cry once. Those that make assumptions, you know what they say about making assumptions, right? The mother of all fuck-ups. So if you look around you and see all these boxes, you immediately think they're all Festool tools, don't you? But wait, you remember I said I bought into the Festool system, right? So here's the system working for me outside of Festool tools. I will punt tools that are cheap, that have come from China, Banggood and other companies asked me to work with them. They're mostly tools, though, that if we bought in our respective countries, we'd be paying 10 times price for.
Now, I'm not a tool snob. If it gets the job done, that's what's happening. I've got Ryobi, I've got Titan, I've got a little bit of DeWalt, I've got Works, I've got Makita. Doesn't make a difference to me. Would I like a Mirka sander? Yes. Can I afford it? Not really. Will an Erbauer one do? Probably. So I'll buy that. Actually, that's a point to make. Now, yeah, you can pay someone else to do something. Just imagine they're building a cabinet. How much more is that going to cost you to pay someone else to do it? Or you can spend that money doing it yourself, by buying a few £100 worth of tools that you can use over and over again, and you get the satisfaction at the end of it, that knowing that you've actually built it. So for me, I've never built a cabinet in my life, but I'm slowly buying up tools that I can do that in the future, and I'm planning on making my own kitchen, and I'm going to save at least 15 grand. Something else to note is some tools, they just pay for themselves. When I done my first build, I got a 800-900 pounds DeWalt miter saw, double bevel sliding. That done me all the way through, and I've still got it today. The nail guns that I used, they were second hand, they was Pasload. Not really great, like they're a bit iffy, but they got me through, and I'm still using them today. They was only like £300 for the both of them, and I even bought a bloody Titan pin nailer the other day. You need to make your life a little bit easier sometimes as well. Now, can I mix up cement in a wheelbarrow with a spade? Yes. Or can I buy a cement mixer for 50 quid that's second hand, that's perfectly fine and I can use it? Yeah. So why don't I just do that? Sometimes I'd just rather do things myself rather than pay someone else, and then at the end of it I've still got a tool that I'm probably going to be using 10 years down the line.
Then there's the peeps that just want to get the job done. Buy a domino. Then met with the peeps that say you aren't a maker if you use a domino. I wonder if people got this much from the biscuit joints when that came out. I mean, let's all take forever to make everything, shall we? Let's all do it by hand. Take 3 times the amount of time it takes. We're talking power tools here, but hand tools are slightly different. I mean, hand tools, decent hand tools are expensive. Sure, you can get some old Stanley number 4, 5 planes and spend the day making them all nice and good. Go for it. I don't like that style of plane. I'd rather have a low angle plane because they're quick, easy and simple to set up. With crap tools though, you're going to find that you'll be constantly chasing your ass, dialing them in again, sometimes every cut, to make sure the cut's perfect. One day you'll get to the point that you get absolutely sick of that and want to branch out and find a tool that's going to do the job efficiently, and you're not going to have to worry about it. Really like tools that I set up once and don't have to worry about again, because I've been there chasing my backside, setting tools up constantly. I remember when I did my brother's decking outside my brother's house, first mitre saw I ever had, and every single cut I had to calibrate that bloody thing. It took forever. And that day when you go out and you go and buy a more expensive version of what you had, then you've become everything you're complaining at us for.
The dilemma for me and for many other content creators is when you get offered something that's going to make your work easier and more enjoyable, it can be pretty hard to turn that down. I am still regularly turning down offers though for things like tools, CNCs, lasers, 3D printers, because doing this you realise very quickly that most of the offers you get work out as a much better deal for the company selling the product than it is for the content creator. In some cases, it can actually be pretty exploitative. They want to get content creators to promote and help sell their products on their behalf, but without having to spend a penny.
Sponsorships. Early on, you might get thrown a free tool. It very much feels free because you might not have to do much. You splash a name on the internet, maybe make a reel or a post. But as you go, you'll start getting a little bit smarter with what you're actually worth and what it takes to produce something for that company who wants to give you something free. Small stuff, not a big deal. Big stuff like this table saw. Now, I've got a partnership with Timbercon. They supplied me with this saw, but I have to pay this saw back with a lot of video. A lot. And that's for their channel. That's for them to do whatever they want with. Each one of those videos, it takes me a long time to produce. Not just the project, but all the editing and all the stuff that goes along with it. If I was paying myself by the hour, I'm definitely not in front when it comes to what the value of this saw costs. I'm not going to talk about how much I get paid per hour. No one will be working for that amount of money if we actually broke down what I've got to give back to receive something like this machine here. Same with expensive lasers and CNCs. Now I've got the obligation where I've got to make a couple of big videos in exchange for the value of those tools. Again, they take a lot of time. You've got to put a lot of effort in because you want to get the eyeballs on those videos and then show the company that you were worth the effort. If you break it down by the hour, it's not free. It's far from free.
One common misconception I'd like to clear up was the thinking, and it came from this comment: I can't stand YouTubers that get sent 20k's worth of free tools. If you really think that and believe that, get some help. Go back to school. You're chanting about stuff you know nothing about. Didn't your parents teach you that nothing in life is free? Let me break it down for you with a recent example. The manufacturer will send out tools or to be reviewed for services rendered. Take the laser I now have. There was about 130 hours of editing time in those 3 vids. Remember, the laser is worth 2,000. For every finished minute of edit you watch, it's taken 3 hours to do. So 130 hours editing, 4 days filming and writing the script, so 163 hours total. That works out to be £12.26 an hour. Have you any idea what professional editors get per hour? It's a lot more than that. £12.26 is pretty much minimum wage in this country. Now I hear you all up. What about the ad revenue you've made from making those videos on YouTube? So for those 3 videos so far, I've made a whopping, wait for it, I hope you're sitting down, you're going to want to be a YouTuber when you hear this, £38 I've made from ad revenue for those 3 videos. Nonetheless, I'm going to keep that laser, so I'm not going to be making any money from selling it, am I? Free, you say? I pretty much paid for that laser myself. That's pretty much why I only review tools I need. Now I'm reviewing tools and giving them away to patrons because I've pretty much got everything I need. Well, you know, there's obviously, I'd like to have half a dozen band saws and 3 table saws, 3 cabinet saws and so on, but realistically, it's not much from these tool companies I need. Funny enough, actually, I just watched a guy, and he's fully loaded of Festool tools everywhere. His workshops, I mean, just walls of it. And he's comparing them to, I think it's a Chinese brand called Wen or Ren. And he had the audacity to, he had a plunge saw and the Festool TS55. And he was trying to compare them to, and he quite literally put the Festool to one side. This is brilliant. This is what you should get. It's only 60 quid. Having been there through that myself in the past, through using tools like that, I know there's only two really good, 3 I'd say, the Bosch Mafal and the Festool plunge saws that are top-notch plunge saws. Anyway, so then I looked down into this comment section, and lo and behold, there's affiliate links for all of these tools he's punting over Festool. Basically just lying through his teeth to get you to purchase these tools using his links. By the jealousy of the tools, some people have actually jealousy of the size of people's workshops. I can and I can't get my head around that. I guess I was brought up properly. I don't get jealous that way. In fact, I'm struggling right now to think of when I have got jealous. Not since I was a child. If a friend gets a brand spanking new tool or bigger workshop, I might say something like, "You lucky bastard." It's not me being jealous. That's sort of a man's way of saying, "Well done, son. Good on you. Good for you." And yeah, I'd like a bigger workshop too, but I'm not going to disown that person because of it. I think the only time I've had something to say about people's huge workshops is those workshops are so big, unnecessarily big. So big that the tools are spaced out yards and yards apart. I understand when big workshops have tools so far apart they need to get a forklift in there to be able to move the tools around. That I understand, but I'm talking about the workshops that the tools are so far apart you need a scooter to get to the next part of the job. That's not jealousy, that's me thinking you're fucking stupid. That's wasted time, that's wasted energy. I forgot, for God's sake, trying to heat that in the winter. I mean, there's a friend of mine who makes guitars. His workshop's so small that he probably has to turn, it looks to me on camera that he has to turn around on the spot. And when I see that, I wish he would have a bigger workshop. He deserves it.
So in this space, I mostly make guitars. I was in the corner, literally on a Black & Decker workmate with a jigsaw and a chisel to start with. But over time, I've increased my tool collection and the quality of such things. So now I've expanded to 4... The camera's over there, dickhead. So now I've expanded to 4 times the space, which is great because I've got a 6-foot workbench behind me, nailed to the wall because no one wants to chase a bench around the room when you're hammering. But more space would suit me a lot better because when I need to clear off the bench every time I want to use the bandsaw, and then I want to find a space for the bandsaw when I need to get the table router out. And then I realise I haven't actually sanded close enough to the line, so I need to get rid of the table router, get the bench sander out, sand it down, and I need to reset it again every time. It's not a massive gripe, but if you've never had to film anything, you've got no idea how much of a pain in the arse it is to find somewhere to put the camera to get everything in view, and then find out you put the tripod leg right where you want to be.
Where do you think you're going to learn tips and tricks from watching DIYers? DIYers, I said, are less experienced. So you prefer watching amateurs or beginner woodworkers putting out videos on how to do something as if they're experts, do you? Newsflash, they're putting out bad information from their inexperience. But good on them. I'm not going to knock them for that. Everyone starts somewhere. But the fact still remains is that they're inexperienced and a lot of it is ill information.
One thing I really don't get is why people don't want to learn from someone else just because they've got better shit in their shed. You got to step back a little bit and think about how that person got there, and it only takes a few scrolls of your finger to look at some of the early videos to see how they actually started out and what they started with. Figure out if the person you're actually watching has something valuable to say. Don't let the machine that they're holding onto determine whether you really want to hang around and watch that video. For example, Festool owners. I don't know why Festool owners cop so much grief. I guarantee you all those people didn't start with Festool products. They probably started with something ordinary. They probably then got their first Festool product and saw that there is a massive jump. Yes, there's a massive jump in price, but there's a massive jump in quality. And it's not just people banging on about it on the internet. I've been around long enough to know that those things cost a lot more for good reason, because you get all the extra good that the other brands haven't quite got there with yet to charge that sort of money. If you're watching someone with a fancy Festool track saw with all the bells and whistles cutting a straight line, there are so many ways that you can cut your straight line with what you've got. Like I've said, this has taken me nearly 8 years. That is a lot of time. That's a lot of time. So see if you enjoy it, upgrade as you go, and have a bit of fun.
I don't come to this game to be a teacher, nor do I profess to be a teacher, nor do I want to be known as one. If I sometimes do suggest something and someone's happy, that says you can teach really well, that's nice of them, but I'm just doing my own thing on YouTube. I'm doing it because I enjoy making videos and I enjoy making stuff out of wood. That's it. I couldn't give a solitary about anything more than that, really. I mean, what's the old saying? You do you. I hope it's entertaining. I hope the videos flow nicely. I hope the audio's good. I hope you get inspiration from my artistic side of things, and hopefully that encourages you to get out of your safety zone and try something that you think might not work, which is really my point and how I probably learned what most of the things I know. I kind of think out of the box a lot. I mean, have you ever seen anyone else on YouTube using a Brad Point drill bit to power carve out some wood? Nor me. I think I'm definitely the first to have done that. If you are looking for somebody that is good at teaching, I would suggest Matt Goes East, Matt Eastley. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. My apologies if you're watching this and I've pronounced it wrong. He's a trained teacher, unlike 98% of the people on YouTube. So when he is saying how to do something, it is done in a far better way than someone that's not a teacher. But for the likes of people like Rob Koseman and Paul Salesman, by all means, watch their stuff. Don't think what they say is gospel, though. Look at what they're doing, really at what they're doing, where their arms are, their elbows, their body, how they're standing, and take away what you think could be something that's going to work for you and try it. Sit there and watch someone cut dovetails and then make a long list of notes, take that to the workshop, and then progressively work through those notes trying to cut dovetails. I've watched hundreds of videos on how to cut dovetails, and I think there's only one video I remember watching that really stuck out for me. And the reason I feel Matt Esley is the better person to be watching if you want to be taught is because he said this about holding the dovetail saw. You want to hold the handle like you're holding a small bird. You don't want to be holding it so tight you're going to crush the bird, but you want to be holding it just loose enough that it's not going to fly away. Words to that effect. I can't think of anyone on YouTube who's ever conveyed anything like that when they were talking about how to use a saw for dovetails. My way of saying how to hold a saw would probably be more like hold it like a pregnant woman's tit. Now you can see why I'm not a teacher. It's verging on slagging off when people say, if you can't do it, teach. It's not kind of the case on YouTube. Well, the idea for a lot of us, it's not very easy to make a living from making furniture. So most of us on YouTube that are actually furniture makers are doing this to subsidize what we're not making from building furniture. I get a lot of people asking me to make another Maloof chair. Now, those chairs go for about 1,200 a chair and they take about 4 weeks to make. No one buys them. And unless you're a name, then it's really difficult in this game. And then really the only way someone like myself is going to make a living out of it is to be the designer sitting up in a room designing furniture and getting those designs made by my team. That's no good for me. I'm only good if my hands are busy, and I'm a perfectionist, so I can't imagine what it'd be like to having people working for you and them not being as anal about what they're making as I would be. And trying to get a job at a furniture maker's workshop for me is very difficult. I mean, I've been to see 3 people. One of them actually said it out loud. He said, I don't think you'll be happy here because you'll be doing the same thing every day. These workshops want a robot that's just going to sit down and make the same every day. That'd do my head in. Monotony is the mother of all ruin, I think. Isn't that the saying? And the other side of it is like they don't want somebody that is also a designer and creative. I think there's also a sort of limit to person's skills that they will accept too. I got that feeling from when they were asking what do you expect to get as your day rate. But saying that, when you look on YouTube now, pretty much most woodworking channels are selling you something, and it is so boring. About 90%, I'd say. But then if you guys supported your favourite makers, so say like Patreon, We wouldn't have to be doing the sales pitch in a build video. I'm curious, those guys that complain about people having expensive tools and big workshops, are you a fan of the what I call the tits and arse YouTube channels? No, they're making furniture with their tits out, or one of them I saw the other day, just a pair of dungarees on, got side boobs going on. Are you one of those people that complains about the tools people use and the size of their workshop? Are you big fans of those sorts of channels? Do you have a hole in your pocket? Man with hand in pocket, feel cocky all day. You know the channels I mean, the ones they've got no talent, bar the cleavage, the bum out the bottom, where there's actually the husband behind the camera. I saw one that did make me laugh. I could hear him trying to jump in and not jump in to tell her actually how to hold that sounder properly. And it was really amusing. Let's call them cuck channels from now on, shall we? You're probably thinking, well, you're jealous because they've got loads of subscribers. I'm not. I find it insulting to my intelligence, these channels. I find it insulting as a man that we're probably looked at like we're so shallow that that's all there is to us. Stick a pair of boobs in front of us and we'll watch anything. Judging by subscribers, they're right. But for me, I feel kind of manipulated by it. I can't quite find the right words to... I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love to meet a woman that's also just as passionate and keen about making stuff, especially out of wood. So it's nice to watch women making stuff. But there's very few channels out there that are female channels that are great makers. There's some, I just don't think there's many, and there's certainly not many female channels compared with the amount of males with woodworking channels, are there? Anyway, that's just insulting. I bet in the comments you've got idiots saying things like, you can come and play with my tools any day you like, love, but your workshop's too big. I'll tell you what I did actually when I started out this video. I did look online to find a fake bust to wear to see how that went down, but there were hundreds and hundreds of pounds. In some few respects, I kind of get it. I kind of get it when I see channels comparing tools, and they're really just a salesperson. No offense to salespeople, don't get me wrong. Don't pose as a woodworker selling tools when you've got all experience. And you can tell those people because you see in their workshop there isn't a speck of dust anywhere. Walls are usually white. All the tools are perfectly placed and arranged neatly like some sort of choreographed film set. Even their shirt doesn't even have a hole in it. They haven't got a bit of finish spilled anywhere. They don't wear a watch. They definitely don't. They don't do any fine work, chisel work, hand planing if they're wearing a watch. I jest. I'm saying that because I used to wear a watch, and it really pissed me off because it was a big, heavy thing. When you're throwing a mallet, it's just sliding up against your hand, and you'd have to take it off. Why I stopped wearing a watch? Kind of all the gear and no idea. It's, I think, what they say, isn't it? I'm slightly biased in my thinking, and I'll tell you why. A long time ago, I was finding my way, finding out that I really enjoyed making stuff, more so than the film set deck work. It was said that I was handy to have around because I was good at solving problems quickly. Down camera is an expensive time, and I especially hated the bravado that is in the film world. My doesn't stink any differently to yours. You don't gold. Don't ever meet actors, will you? I could tell you some stories, and I'd probably get trouble in YouTube if I mentioned what I'd like to do to some of them. So anyway, I left and went down the rabbit hole of trying to grow my knowledge of how to making furniture and anything out of wood. And the only place to learn from there is YouTube. But that's free anyway. And at the time I had a job, so I was literally lunch break watching YouTube videos. I get home from work, I'm watching YouTube videos literally till my eyes close in bed every day, 7 days a week for years. At the same time, the job I was doing was progressively moving more and more to me making stuff, headboards, upholstery work. So at the same time, I was also getting tools. But man, did it take a long time because there's so much on YouTube. It was an expensive learning curve too. Many mistakes made because what I was told I thought to be true. I mean, look, it's got 1.8 million subscribers, 1 million subscribers. They've got to know what they're talking about. It showed me there's a lot of hacks on YouTube. I'd say don't be discouraged for not having high-end tools unless your dad or someone's got a workshop and you grew up in that environment. Almost everybody starts out in that same boat. I could guarantee you every YouTuber also started out like that. So, give them a break. It's madness that people get annoyed by other people's success. It's beyond me. I would suggest you find a friend that's got a planer and a thicknesser. That's an expensive tool to buy, but I think it's the most important tool in the workshop, as I've said before. That's not a tool really you're going to want to buy as a beginner, and I wouldn't suggest buying those bench top jobs. They will get you by, but oh man, there's not one person I know who's got anything good to say about them. But anyway, most importantly, it's Stop bitching about other people's workshops and tools.
And don't be a knob to other people.
And remember, you can always put the crappy side to the wall. On a positive note, I've got to say this shit really warmed my cockles up. I wasn't expecting to see this, but there were a couple of comments from peeps punting my channel, you know, along with the names of channels that have got 1 million subscribers and upwards. If you guys are watching this, big respect, much love. Thank you. If you can, I'd be grateful if you'd head over to my Patreon page and sign up and help support this channel. It's pressure free, no obligation, cancel any time. You get the director's cut, so no bleeping, and you get to see them ad free on Patreon. I hope you're enjoying the video. Be lucky. I'd like to give a warm welcome to my new Patreons, Robert Armstrong and Eric Anderson.